We've certainly had a lot of people be very disapproving of the fact that we are an interfaith marriage and that we then chose to raise an interfaith family. I'm Jewish, and my husband Steve is a Christian. He's an Episcopalian. And neither one of us wanted to give up our own beliefs. So we chose to embrace the fact that we were interfaith. And so we did a lot of exploring of each other's religions so that we could learn a lot about each other. And I think that made us more welcoming, and it gave us an opportunity to really understand each other's belief system. While we were doing that, now your dad and I got married in 1989. We met in 1986, so that was quite a long time ago. And we would go to churches and to synagogues together, and we went to many different kinds. And there were definitely some synagogues and some churches that were not at all welcoming of an interfaith family, interfaith couple. There were some where you kind of got the feeling right away that it wouldn't be a good idea to disclose that you were of a different faith than your partner. And in those instances, we just didn't share that information and didn't go back. It took a long time to really look for two places to worship where we felt comfortable and embraced as a couple that had two religions, and that one person was not interested in converting to the other person's religion. That was, we had a lot of advice from people on how we should not raise you in both faiths. And that was very frustrating for us because we didn't feel like it was right for us to pick what was going to be right for you. So we thought it was best that we teach you about both, and that at some point you guys would make your own choices about what was good for you. But there were a lot of people who were very, very critical, and they did not, they believed that raising you in both faiths would just confuse you, that you wouldn't know what to think, you would be very messed up, I think a lot of people said. You'd be really messed up kids. I don't think that ended up being true. Now that I think about it, there was one time when we really did face sort of discrimination, but again, it was more institutional religion that was discriminating against us. There are many, many people who are rabbis or priests or other clergy who will not conduct interfaith weddings. They refuse to do that. And although I guess that's not outright discrimination, it felt like discrimination. We felt like we wanted to get married just like anybody, and we wanted to have both religions represented at the wedding in part of the ceremony, and there were a lot of people who would not do that. So eventually we were able to find a rabbi and a pastor who would work together and did our wedding ceremony together, which we created, which we blended both traditions. And that's kind of how we've approached it all along. We've blended both traditions. Some people have judged me based on my own religion, that they're not crazy about the fact that I'm Jewish. I could say that your father probably would say the same thing about people judging him because he's Christian. And I don't think people have as much of an issue with an interfaith marriage as they do with an interfaith family. I think once you bring kids into it, people get really touchy about it. And I can tell you that your grandparents, my parents, my mom and dad, were not very excited that I had chosen to marry outside of my faith. They were very concerned that I was going to lose my Judaism. I was going to give up my Judaism for this guy that I was going to marry, who, now after 22 years of marriage, they're pretty sure that I'm not going to stop being Jewish. But and you know that they love and embraced your dad. But early on, that was a very big concern for them. And you know, my parents were born in 1938 and 1941, which, as you know, is in the midst of, or in the beginning of, and then during World War II. And so we lost a lot of family in that war. We had family who passed away, who were at the Holocaust. We had family who had died previous to that in Russia, who were killed because they were Jewish. And like a lot of Jewish families, there's concern about Jews being wiped out. And certainly my parents were no different. They were concerned that if I married outside the faith, that I would give up my Jewishness, my Judaism, that my kids wouldn't have any connection to Judaism, and that it would stop with me. And that was a real worry for them. Now, obviously, that didn't come to pass, but nonetheless, it was a very real worry.